My name is Evan, and this first story happened to me in Pullman, Washington, on New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2020. I'm not the type who assumes everything is dangerous. If anything, I joke when I shouldn't. I downplay things because it feels ridiculous to admit you're scared of something you can't neatly explain. That night started like most nights did then, small, contained, pretending the world was normal when it was. It was a mellow pandemic house party near College Hill. Nothing wild. One overheated living room, too many people, loud music, cheap booze in plastic cups. I went with my friend Drew. He has that older brother vibe, the kind of guy who notices you haven't eaten and hands you a snack without making it a thing. Midnight hit, and everyone did the usual script. People screamed like sheer volume could reset the year. Fireworks cracked somewhere outside. Phone flashlights flashed. A girl I barely knew hugged me and said, "We made it," like we'd survived something together. I was buzzed but not gone. I felt the cold every time the door opened. I kept thinking about the walk back to campus housing, because tomorrow morning wasn't canceled just because the year flipped. We left around 12:50. Outside, Pullman felt off. Fireworks going off in random bursts, shouting drifting from different directions, cars circling like no one wanted to go home yet. The air hurt when you breathed it in. Drew pulled his hood up. "You good walking back?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, "I'm not 12. "I'm still walking you," he said, already heading out. That was just who he was. We headed toward campus. After a few minutes, he jerked his chin toward the greenbelt trail, a wooded shortcut students used all the time. "We can save 10 minutes if we cut through," he said. I laughed. Shortcut through the woods on New Year's. Perfect horror movie setup. "You watch too much creepy stuff," he said. We went anyway because that's how normal choices line you up for bad ones. The second we hit the tree line, the sound shifted. Fireworks turned into distant thuds. Street noise fell away. The path was darker than I expected, patches of snow and wet leaves blending into one long strip of black. Our footsteps sounded too loud. Then I heard another set. At first I told myself it was an echo. Then I realized the rhythm didn't match ours. It was behind us. I stopped without thinking. Drew stopped too. The footsteps stopped at the exact same moment. We just stood there listening. Wind in the branches, nothing else. I forced a laugh. "Okay, whoever's back there, great job being creepy." No answer. Drew started walking again, slower, and I went with him. 2 steps later, the footsteps started up again. I kept trying to make it normal. Another student, same shortcut, totally fine. So I stepped off the trail, tugging Drew with me like we were just letting someone pass. We waited. No one went by. No shape moved ahead of us. No sorry, no throat clear, nothing. The footsteps didn't come forward. They stayed back, holding distance like whoever it was didn't want to be seen. Drew leaned close. "He's not trying to go anywhere," he murmured. "What?" I whispered. "He's matching us." My phone buzzed, some pointless group chat full of fireworks emojis. The screen lit my hands and jacket just enough to make everything beyond it darker by contrast. That's when I saw him. Not clearly, just a human outline between the trees off the trail. Not directly behind us, but parallel, like he'd been using the trunks as cover. He didn't move. It felt like he'd been waiting for the light. Drew's hand closed around my sleeve, grounding me. "We're done with the shortcut," he said quietly. We turned onto a narrow side trail that led toward a fence line and a service road. Somewhere beyond that there were apartment buildings. Lights. People. As soon as we changed direction, the silhouette shifted too. Drew bent down and picked up a rock. I tried to sound relaxed. "Yo," I called out, forcing a laugh. "You good back there?" For a moment, nothing. Then a voice floated out of the dark. Calm, flat, "Keep walking." Drew didn't answer. He just tightened his grip on my sleeve and sped up. We emerged into a back lot. Snow piles, overflowing dumpsters, a metal gate clattering in the wind. Fireworks went off again. bright flashes making the world stutter in white and color. One burst lit him up. He was closer than he should have been, like he'd already mapped where we'd come out. Average height, dark jacket, hood up, hands hanging loose at his sides. No rush, no mask. Just there. The light died and he dissolved back into a shape. Drew yanked me toward the nearest apartment building. Glass entryway, buzzer panel, locked door. He started jabbing the buzzers like he was playing a broken piano. "Come on," he muttered. I grabbed a random name off the directory and shouted like we knew each other. "Jason, please," a voice snapped through the intercom. "What, please?" Drew said. "Someone's out here, buzz us in." Pause, then the lock buzzed. We hauled the door open and stumbled inside, slamming it behind us. The lobby smelled like worn carpet and somebody's cooking. It was the safest smell I can remember. Through the glass, I saw him standing on the sidewalk. He didn't rush the door, didn't test the handle. He just watched us long enough for it to land. Whatever this was, the chase wasn't the point. After about a minute, he turned and walked away between the buildings, like he'd finished whatever he'd come out there to do. The cops came later. Same checklist. Did he touch you? Did he say he was going to hurt you? Did he have a weapon? What exactly did he do? He told us to keep walking, I said. He followed us. He matched our steps. They drove around the area, came back with that look that means this story isn't going anywhere. "Probably someone messing around," one said. We nodded like that made sense. I went home, sat on my bed still wearing my coat, and heard that flat voice on loop in my head. For weeks I avoided that trail. No more shortcuts, no more joking about horror movie decisions, because it didn't feel like we happened to run into him. It felt like midnight was when his night started. I was living in a second-floor apartment on the north side of Spokane in December 2021. The kind of place that's permanently half full of grad students, short-term renters, and people who move out before anyone remembers their name. I was 26, buried in grad school, and I'd made what felt like a responsible choice, staying in for New Year's Eve. No parties, no crowds, no pretending I had energy I didn't. The night was quiet in a boring way, a mug of tea that went cold beside me, my laptop open to a draft I already hated, notes scattered across the coffee table like proof I was trying. The TV murmuring in the background for company. Outside was the opposite. By midnight, the neighborhood was loud in waves, fireworks cracking and echoing between buildings. Bursts of Happy New Year, then silence, then another round. Random car horns, smoke leaking in around the windows. I watched the digital clock flip to 12:03 and thought, okay, New Year. Same problems. Around 12:10, I heard something from the alley behind my building that didn't match the mood. At first it was so faint I assumed it was noise leaking through the walls. Then it came again. Not laughter, not drunk yelling, not celebration. It sounded like someone trying not to be heard. I walked into the kitchen and stood by the window. My place faced the alley at a bad angle. I could see dumpster lids, the fence, part of the back parking area, but not the ground itself unless someone stepped into a narrow slice of view. I told myself it was just holiday drama. People fight on holidays, people cry, people get sloppy. Then I heard a word that didn't belong outside at midnight on New Year's. Stop. It wasn't shouted. It was tight, forced out. Every bit of my attention locked onto that window. I cracked it open an inch. Fireworks flashed over the rooftops, throwing brief light into the alley. Underneath the explosions, I heard it again, a sound that might have been please, or maybe my brain was trying to fill in the gaps. Alleys distort sound. Another volley of fireworks detonated, swallowing everything. It kept happening like that. Every time I thought I'd heard something, more fireworks crashed over it. Loud, aggressive, perfectly timed. It felt like the city itself was covering for someone. I stayed there waiting for a break. Then there was 2 seconds of quiet. In that tiny gap I heard it clearly, a scream. Short, sharp reel, cut off mid-breath like someone had physically stopped it. My thumb hit call before I could think. 911, what's the address of your emergency? I gave it. My voice sounded weirdly calm. I think someone's in trouble in the alley behind my building, I said. I heard screaming. Can you see anyone? No. My window doesn't show the ground. Are you hearing anything right now? Right on cue, another round of fireworks went off. I can't tell, I said, and I hated how unsure that sounded. She asked about the alley lighting, gates, cameras. I told her what I knew and guessed the rest. It felt like failing a test. Then I heard running footsteps outside. Fast, then slowing, then stopping. The fireworks surged again like static. Officers are on the way, she said. It's a busy night. Multiple calls. I stayed by the window, phone pressed to my ear, cold air sliding in through the crack. At some point, the footsteps stopped completely. The silence after that was worse than the noise. It felt finished. The police showed up around 12:28. I watched flashlights sweep the alley, beams cutting around the dumpsters and along the fence by the gate. They didn't stay long. One of them spotted me at the window and called up, asking what I'd heard. A scream, I said. Did you see anyone? No, that word felt heavy. They asked the same questions again, took quick notes, then left. The fireworks kept going like nothing had happened. The next morning, that weird post-holiday quiet settled over everything. I went down to the alley because I could not go. Behind the dumpster near the fence, I found small things half buried in dirty slush. The back of a plastic phone case, a single cheap earring. Nothing dramatic, nothing that proved anything, just enough to say something happened here without enough to say what. I called building management about cameras. They don't cover the alley, the woman said, mostly entrances and parking. Were they recording last night? They should have been unless there was a reboot, on New Year's Eve. I filed a report anyway, gave the time, the details, the things I'd found. The officer listened like he'd heard this kind of almost story 100 times. For weeks, fireworks bothered me, not the loudness, but the way they can smother smaller sounds. The scream wasn't the worst part. The worst part was how fast my own brain tried to talk me out of believing I'd heard it. Now, whenever fireworks go off, I don't think of celebrations first. I think about how easy it is to bury something terrible inside a party. I was 16 when this next one happened, but it doesn't feel distant. It feels like a room I could walk into right now. Same air, same noise, same sense that something small shifted and never quite shifted back. New Year's Eve 2015, Plano, Texas. I wasn't doing anything dramatic. No party, no friends over. Just me and my parents on the couch with snacks, watching one of those countdown shows. Being a teenager on New Year's mostly means pretending you don't care. I had my phone in my hand, scrolling without absorbing anything, half listening to my parents argue over who was lip-syncing and who was. They were loose and chatty in that comfortable way. Dad had a bowl of chips balanced on his stomach. Mom had a blanket up to her shoulders. The house felt full. Our backyard was fenced. 6-foot wooden panels, narrow strip of grass, a gate that squeaked unless you lifted the latch just right. At night, it was just a dark rectangle we didn't think about. Fireworks started going off in the distance around 11. Normal stuff, pops and booms, colored flashes over the roofs. Nobody paid attention. Then one went off behind our house, not down the block. Not a few yards away, directly behind the fence. It was close enough to rattle the back window. My mom stopped talking mid-sentence. Seriously, my dad said, irritated. Already? Probably neighbors, my mom said, more annoyed than worried. Another one exploded. Same place, same intensity. My dad set the chips aside and went to the back window, lifting the blinds just enough to peek out. The porch light was off, so the yard sat mostly in shadow, only touched by a neighbor's floodlight spill. See, he said after a second. Behind the fence. Just idiots. But he didn't let the blinds fall. I got up without really deciding to and drifted closer, stopping a few steps back. Another firework went off. This one felt wrong. Not just loud, but close in a different way. Angled from that skinny strip just outside the fence line where there's barely room for a person to stand unseen, unless you're specifically looking. "There's someone back there," I said. "There isn't," my dad replied, eyes still on the yard. Another firework shot up brighter, and for half a second our yard flashed into view. I saw movement along the far fence, someone stepping out of deeper shadow. My dad's arm lifted instinctively, blocking me from the glass. "I didn't imagine that," I said, quieter now. He didn't answer. A smaller firework went off, a sharp crack lighting the yard again. This time the figure was clearer. A person standing in the back corner, wedged into the thickest shadows. What bothered me wasn't that someone was there. It was how still they were. They weren't celebrating. They weren't moving around. They weren't lighting one after another. They were spacing them out, pausing between each one like they were watching to see who came to the window. That's when I understood the part that made my stomach drop. We were fully lit inside. TV on, lamps on. From outside, the living room was an aquarium. Anyone in the yard or just beyond it could see us perfectly. I took another step back from the window. Another firework went off, bigger this time. The yard stayed lit for a heartbeat. You could see more now, posture, orientation. They were facing the house. My mom finally stood. "Okay," she said. "That's enough. Who's out there?" My dad didn't respond. His eyes had shifted, locked now toward the gate side of the yard. Then I heard it, a small metallic scrape. The quiet sound of someone testing the latch. "Dad," I whispered. This time he didn't dismiss me. He walked to the wall and flipped the porch light on. The yard flooded with yellow light. Nothing. No one, just damp grass, patio chairs, the fence. He waited there a moment like he was daring something to move. Then he locked the back door, double-checked it, and flipped on every exterior light we had: porch, side yard, garage. The house glowed like a warning sign. He didn't go outside. He told my mom to call the non-emergency line. He told me to go upstairs and stay away from the windows. I did, but slowly. From my room I could still hear the distant fireworks, the normal kind, the ones that belonged. Nothing else happened. No more too close explosions, no footsteps, no voices. The police never showed up. The dispatcher said they were swamped and to call 911 if someone actually tried to get in. Everything before that didn't quite qualify. The next morning, my dad checked the yard. I watched from the kitchen window. He spent a long time crouched near the back corner. When he came inside, he set a small pile of spent fireworks on the counter, cheap ones, not ours. Then he showed us the gate latch, fresh scratch marks, like someone had lifted it slowly, carefully, figuring out how much pressure it took to keep it quiet. We didn't say much. My parents tried to treat it like a weird near miss, something that happened near the house, not to us. But something had shifted. I stopped standing near windows after dark. I started noticing how bright rooms look from outside. I paid attention to how music, crowds, and fireworks can mask smaller sounds. I used to think fireworks meant fun. Now I think about what else can move in the dark while everyone's busy looking up. December at school had been parent conferences, holiday chaos, kids humming with sugar and anticipation, and that constant teacher brain that's always 5 problems ahead. A friend offered me her family's cabin near the lake for cheap. Quiet, snow, a place to reset over New Year's. It sounded perfect. The cabin was exactly what you'd picture: wood-paneled walls, that baked-in smell of wood stove smoke, a row of boots by the door, string lights wrapped around the porch railing. Out front, the lake looked like a black mirror, dotted with a few cabin lights on the far shore, isolated but not completely alone. That mattered to me. I got there around 6, unloaded groceries, put my boots by the door. Lit the stove, checked the thermostat, checked the locks, front door, side door, back slider, then checked them again. Rentals feel secure until they suddenly don't. I set my phone on the counter to charge and texted my friend a photo with a joke. If I get eaten by a bear, I died happy. She sent back, text me when you're in for the night. I did around 10:30. All in, doors locked, being boring. Across the lake, fireworks started early. The sound carried strangely over the water, muted booms that felt out of place in all that emptiness. I left the TV on low for background noise and ate soup straight from the pot. Midnight came and went quietly. I muted the countdown, sent a couple Happy New Year texts, watched distant fireworks shimmer through the front window. By 12:30, I was ready to call it. I rinsed my mug, stood at the kitchen sink and looked out at the lake. The glass reflected the warm kitchen behind me over the dark water. That's when I heard it, a soft mechanical rattle. The sound of a doorknob turning when it shouldn't be. My first thought was stupid. Did I forget to lock one? The second one hit harder, someone's checking. I went still. My phone sat on the counter just out of arm's reach. I stared at it like it might slide closer on its own. Another sound. A different door this time. That's when the pattern clicked. Someone was moving around the cabin, testing each entry. I flipped off the kitchen light on reflex, then immediately regretted it. The darkness outside felt thicker, closer. I grabbed my phone and moved to where I could see both the hallway and the back slider. Another handle turned. The back slider's latch lifted, paused, then settled back down like whoever held it didn't want to make noise. A firework boomed across the lake. For a second, I hated every stranger celebrating over there. The noise felt like cover. I stayed where I was, thinking about how the cabin looked from outside. Warm lit, one person alone. A display case. The handle lifted again. Then came the knock, not on the door, on the window beside it. 2 soft taps. I whispered no without meaning to and dialed 911. The connection lagged just long enough to feel cruel. 911, what's the address of your emergency? I'm at a cabin near Payette Lake, I said. Someone's outside trying the doors. I had to read the address off a sticky note on the fridge. My hands shook so badly I pinned the paper with a fingertip just to keep it still. She repeated the address wrong. I corrected her like I was correcting a student. Can you see anyone? She asked. I could have if I went right up to the glass. I wasn't doing that. No, I said. Another firework cracked across the lake. In the space afterward, snow crunched near the porch. I grabbed the heaviest thing within reach, a cast iron pan from beside the stove. It wasn't heroic. I just needed something solid in my hand. Deputies are on their way, she said. Roads are bad. Response might be slow. McCall in winter doesn't care about the word soon. I made a choice. I turned on every light in the cabin. Kitchen, hall, living room, the random lamp by the couch. If someone was circling, I wanted them to know I was awake and aware. Then I remembered my car buried in snow out front, keys on the counter. I hit the panic button. The horn didn't blare like in movies. It beeped, muffled by the snowbank. Outside, the crunching footsteps shifted, moving away from the porch. I stood there with the pan, listening to the car alarm fade while fireworks sparked over the lake like nothing was wrong anywhere. The dispatcher stayed on the line and told me to keep back from the windows, keep the lights on. I did. The deputies finally arrived sometime after 1, maybe closer to 2. They walked the perimeter with flashlights, breath white in the air. No broken locks, no prime marks. The back slider was still latched. Looks like the lock did its job, one of them said. I nodded, but that missed the point. In the morning, enough light and time had passed that I forced myself outside. Under the window by the slider was a single clear boot print in the snow. One solid impression right beneath the glass, close enough to lean in and look, close enough to knock softly and know exactly where that sound would land inside. I packed and left that day. I didn't stay the week. I didn't reset. I didn't finish my book. That night, fireworks were still going off across the lake. All I could think about was how easy it is to move towards someone's door when everyone assumes loud noises mean nothing but joy. I stay in hotels often enough that I treat them like temporary offices. I don't really unpack. I line things up instead. Wallet in the same pocket, keys clipped to my belt loop, phone face down on the nightstand charging. Shoes positioned so I can step into them in one motion. If something happens, fire, alarm, storm, whatever, I don't want to burn time figuring out what to grab. That week I was in Rapid City for work. Mid-range chain hotel off the highway. Beige walls, patterned carpet, the kind of place where every floor smells faintly like coffee and cleaning chemicals. I had early meetings and a long drive after, so New Year's Eve was just another sleep night with louder neighbors. Through the wall, I could hear a group laughing too hard, music at a steady low thump. Doors opening and slamming, someone yelling Happy New Year down the hall. I showered, laid out my clothes, checked that my alarm was set for 5:30 a.m. and climbed into bed. TV on low again, more for company than watching. The cable box said 11:58 when I last checked. At 12:07 the fire alarm went off, not a test beep. The full, shrill, continuous scream that makes you move before you've fully woken up. I sat up, grabbed my glasses and smelled it, smoke. Thin but real, acrid and chemical. I didn't hesitate. Wallet, phone, keys, shoes, jacket. The routine did itself. I opened my door a crack. The smell hit harder in the hall. The air looked wrong, smeared, smoke hanging low under the ceiling lights. Doors up and down the hallway were opening. People stumbling out half-dressed, coughing and squinting. A guy across from me was already filming with his phone. "Is this real?" someone shouted down the corridor. I stepped fully into the hallway and oriented automatically. Stairwell to the right, elevators and lobby to the left. The smoke was thicker toward the right, near the stairs, so everyone flowed left. That's when I saw it. 2 rooms down from the heaviest smoke, something big was pushed up against a guest room door from the hallway side. At first my brain tried to label it as a cart or luggage. Then I saw it clearly. A heavy piece of furniture, rectangular, wedged tight so the door couldn't open outward. The handle was pressing into it. In a fire alarm, the rule is simple. You open the door and walk out, unless you can't. I stopped dead. People pushed around me, moving toward the elevator. "Sir, move," a woman said as she squeezed past like I was just standing in the way. I stepped closer to the blocked door and pounded on it. "Hey, fire alarm." No answer. I hit it again harder. "You need to come out." Nothing. The alarm shrieked over my head. Smoke drifted around us. I grabbed the handle and tried it. It turned, but the door didn't budge against the weight outside. I pictured someone inside, half awake, shoving from their side, not understanding why the door wouldn't open. Then another thought showed up, colder. What if the door is blocked because someone wanted it blocked? A guy hurrying past muttered, "Dude, leave it. Go." I looked toward the smoky end of the hall. No visible flames, no heat wave. Sprinklers weren't going off. The smoke didn't roll like a regular fire. It stung, but it didn't feel hot. It smelled more like something sprayed than something burning. That's when I saw the maintenance worker. He came out of the smoky end at a fast walk. Dark work clothes, radio clipped to his belt. He glanced at the milling crowd at the blocked door at me. For half a second, our eyes met. He didn't say a word. He turned and stepped back into the haze. Then the alarm cut off mid-wail. 1 second it was screaming, the next, nothing. The abrupt silence felt wrong in my bones. The smoke started thinning almost immediately. People slowed, looking around, waiting for instructions that never came. Someone laughed nervously. False alarm. No fire trucks arrived. No manager rushed in to explain. The hotel just decided it was over. I went down to the lobby anyway. The front desk clerk looked more irritated than rattled. "Sensor malfunction," he kept telling people. "Probably hairspray." "Happens on New Year's." When it was my turn, I said, "There was a door blocked on the third floor from the outside. Probably guests messing around," he said. "People drag stuff out." "Did someone check the room?" I asked. "We will," he said, eyes already shifting to the next person. I went back upstairs. The hallway was clear now, no smoke. Doors mostly shut again, people muttering into their phones. The furniture was gone from in front of that room, but the carpet remembered. Fibers flattened where something heavy had sat. Drag marks in the pattern leading away from the doorway. Not neat, not careful, like it had been yanked back fast. I stood there, staring at an ordinary hotel door and the faint tracks in the carpet, and thought about how fast physical evidence disappears in places built to reset every day. The next morning, I asked again about the alarm. Different clerk, same lazy shrug. "Glitch, it happens." I went to my meeting, did my job, made small talk, drove home. But that night stayed with me, and not because of the smoke. It's the logistics that won't settle. Someone knew how to create urgency. Someone understood how crowds move when alarms go off. Someone counted on the fact that people head away from smoke, not toward it. And someone knew exactly which door wasn't supposed to open while everyone else was running the other way. If I saw that blocked door, other people did too. They just kept going. If this video made you think about how easy it is for danger to hide in plain sight, hit that like button, subscribe so you don't miss the next scare. And tell me in the comments which story stuck with you the most. And if your quiet nights home alone still feel harmless, click now to watch 4 truly disturbing home alone horror stories. Because silence doesn't mean safety. It just means there are no witnesses. Thanks for watching, stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.